It's Breezing Highs Podcast, and I'm back with another episode for the podcast. So today we had two games, and the Baltimore Ravens and Kansas City Chiefs game was good in the first quarter, but after the first quarter, it kind of went downhill for Baltimore. Lamar Jackson, they put a lot of pressure on him. They forced him to speed up his progressions, and was ultimately, of course, Baltimore the game. Kansas City defense played very well. They forced a turnover on Lamar Jackson. One sequence was when he was in the pocket. I'm not sure if I'm not going to say it was Chris Jones. It might have been somebody else. Came around and hit him right as he was winding up the throw to force the fumble, which was an exceptional play. Might have been the beginning, turning point of the game. I thought it was going to be very more competitive than what it was. Lamar Jackson did make a beautiful play in the first quarter. As I repeat, it was a time where he was in the pocket, like he was going to get sacked. He escaped the sack and launched the ball down the field to Zay Flowers for the touchdown, tying the game up at 7-7. And then after that, it was an onslaught from Kansas City. Travis Kelce played an amazing game. I either tied the most receptions in the game, I think a playoff game. That was held by Jerry Rice, the great Jerry Rice. Probably one of the best wide receivers to ever live. And Jerry Rice, he may have passed him. I'm not sure. He either tied it or he passed him, which is great for his career. You know, Travis Kelce is one of the best tight ends in the game right now. Probably one of the best tight ends in the history to ever play that position. We know what he brings to the table. I think Gronk probably would have been the best tight end ever to play if it wasn't for, the injuries and everything. So you got to have Gronk somewhere in your top 3 or 4 tight ends of all time. Guys like Tony Gonzalez is definitely up there. Can't forget about Tony Gonzalez when you talk about tight ends and what he brought to the game. Antonio Gates is another guy who brought a lot to the game as far as the tight end position. Jeremy Shockey had a nice little run. I wouldn't say he's up there. Jimmy Graham also was a guy who had a nice run as a tight end. Just thinking on top of my head. But, Travis, Kelce, George Kittle, those guys come to mind as modern day tight ends that should probably be like 1 or 2 or 3. Kelce's definitely number 1. I mean, his resume says it all. 2 championship rings, possibly going to win a 3rd one. Patrick Mahomes, it would have been a great quarterback matchup. Lamar Jackson, arguably the MVP this year. It just came up short. Zay Flowers, being young, got some costly penalties with the taunting. Got to be humble in this football or anything. In this football shit, basketball shit, baseball shit, you got to be humble. You got to respect the game. The game comes with a lot of respect and admiration and appreciation. If you can't respect the game and play within the lines and have passion for the game, then you don't need all that time. That's not passion. But I understand when you make a great play, you might be hyped. That's understandable, but it has to be within the limits of the game, within the guidelines of the game, especially when it can cost your team penalties and stuff like that. You don't never want to hurt your team chances of winning the game. I think what hurt him the most was that fumble that should have been the touchdown. You could have been possibly looking at the game would have been 14-17 at that point. And then they did manage to get a field goal, so you might think that if they would have got that field goal, defense would have played good, they would have got that field goal, they possibly would have had a game where possibly could have had a game where it would have been 17-17 at some point in time. When you think about that, you gotta appreciate that game being 17-17. Now you got yourself a football game, a beautiful football game at that point, because that's what you play for. The game is meant to be played and competitive. But the second game, the Detroit Lions game, and the 49ers, beautiful game. Detroit came out fast, early, went up. I believe it was up by like 20 plus points by halftime. Then, San Francisco hit the switch, came alive. Christian McCaffrey does what Christian McCaffrey does, make plays. Great running back. Deebo Samuels made plays. I'm not sure if Kittle's made any plays. I'm sure he probably did, but Deebo Samuels made plays. Christian McCaffrey made plays. Those guys do what they do best. The 49ers is a good team. Brock Purdy, the last pick in the draft, playing the number 1 pick in the draft, and Jared Goff. Guys are talented, man. Talented guys. The Detroit Lions that I think will be back next year. They just got to remain focused, remain poised, and take this as a learning lesson. You go up that big, you can't get cocky, you can't get overconfident. That's something that they did. They got very cocky, very overconfident. They played very arrogant, very physical, too much grabbing of the jersey, pushing, shoving, not just playing the game the way it should have been played. And that ultimately cost them the game also. But what I did like about it, that it was interesting. They made it interesting. It was an interesting game, and that's all you could really ask for, is the games would be close, competitive, and interesting. What we had, the Super Bowl is set. Baltimore is out. Good year for them. Could have been better, but we leave it at that. Peace and love. Breezy out.